and welcome back to Reactivity TV. I'm Amy Albero, and I'm a licensed therapist.
I am Chris. I'm not a licensed therapist, but can I say, I'm shocked to be saying this right now. But this was the most entertaining episode that I have seen to date in this entire series.
Of The Bachelorette or in the franchise?
Of Golden Bachelor, Bachelor in Paradise, Season 9, Joey's Season 28 of The Bachelor, and now Jenn. I am shocked and disturbed at how entertained I was at this episode. This was the first episode, honestly, that I felt was relatable.
I just want to be the first to say, welcome to Bachelor Nation.
It took 5 seasons of this garbage before finally I could find an episode that I found really relatable. Apparently, Bachelorette, that's my jam. That's where we're jamming right now. I mean, I thought all of the alphaness was just fantastically entertaining and relatable. I thought a bunch of this stuff that I thought a lot of the dynamics in the house were kind of like, interesting from just like a sit back and watch fly on the wall kind of situation. I've been in the room with those guys in the past. I've been a couple of those guys, specifically Devin. And so this was such a super relatable. And, I would say that the thing about this episode that I really enjoyed was the changing perspective. When Devin walked out of that limo last week, I hated that guy. Could not stand him. Then he had his little one-on-one time. And I was like, oh, this guy's got a little bit more, swagger to him than I thought. I think he's a little bit legit, a little immature, but a little bit legit. And then tonight, I love this dude. I want to hang out with him. I think he's fantastic. I think he's what this show needs. I think he's what Jenn needs. I'm all in on Devin.
Wow. You want to marry Devin.
I don't know. I wouldn't go that far. But no, just like, and meanwhile, Thomas N. How high was I on Thomas N?
You were ready to give him your first impression rose.
And you know what? Out. Send him home. Gone. That baby, see ya. Wham, all the way home.
How quick the tides turn here.
Yeah, this episode kind of reminded me of Bachelor in Paradise, where, every, episode, a few new people come down. And so where you started is certainly not where you ended. There was a lot of change up and shifting of opinions and thoughts throughout the season. I got to say, I really thought this was going to be awful. And I thought this was going to be like the dregs. I am pleasantly surprised right now.
Wow. Yeah. I was thoroughly entertained. But before we get further into our discussion, let's just kick off this episode.
Tell them what we're doing here.
We are talking about The Bachelorette Season 21, Episode 2 of Jenn's season. And we're giving our takes. I'm giving my therapist perspective. You're giving your non-therapist perspective. I'm really excited to dig into it. Clearly, we already have a lot to say. But before we get into that, just want to, give a little gentle nudge to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Share this episode with a friend. Comment, rate, review. All of that stuff is so meaningful, goes a long way, and we really appreciate it, especially when we see you in our comment section.
Yeah, please also hit that bell icon to be alerted anytime there's new content posted to the channel. And I am going to point this out, people. Only 5% of you are actually subscribers. I see the metrics, though. You all watch every episode. So what are you waiting for? Just subscribe. Do us that solid. Clearly, you like the content. You keep coming back. Help us out a little bit. Hit that little subscribe button. I'll tell you what, when we get to 1,000 subscribers, 1,00001, you can unsubscribe if you want to. Just don't be the guy who drops us below. We just got to get over that 1,000 subscriber, okay? Just hang on with us. Just get us over that hurdle, all right?
Yes, please. We're not begging or anything.
No, not begging at all. Okay, can we talk about maybe the most important part of this entire episode?
What's that?
Jenn's wardrobe.
I was going to say that.
Have we ever seen a contestant that dresses more in the "this is what Chris loves" fashion sense? I mean, the little leather skirt with the white top, super cool. The little purple thingy with the thingy thing and the cargo pants. All in.
She's so cute. I love her style. I mean, typically the bachelorettes are like really critiqued for their style. She looks amazing. I love every outfit choice she's made. I feel like it also suits her. Like it fits her personality. It doesn't feel like she's playing dress up. But I have to say, I was tough on Jenn in the first episode and kind of said like, ugh, like I wasn't super satisfied. I revoke that opinion. I too have changed
on the wardrobe or on the personality.
On her. On her.
Wait. I'm not done with the wardrobe yet. Wait, we got to back up because I have one wardrobe criticism. Okay.
Okay.
And that is the after party, first group date after party. She's wearing that like gold dress. Beautiful dress. Loved every part of it. Except, what was that dirty mop she was wearing over it?
It was like a boa.
I know, ruined the whole look. Get rid of that.
Cold.
The dress itself,
it's
you're
a
in the mansion.
Thing.
Yeah. All I'm saying is that dress was so beautiful that that furry mop head thing, ditch it. Didn't need it. Took away from the look. That is my only criticism. Otherwise, it was the best dressed contestant or bachelorette that I've seen in the 5 seasons I've been involved in this franchise. Okay, now we can get on to her personality.
I agree. I loved everything she was wearing. I thought she was styled so well. I loved it. Loved her. I thought, like last week I felt like she was like inauthentic. And this week I felt like we got a sense of her personality. She was like fun and engaging. And I loved it. I loved her so much.
Yep. What I will say is, and we don't necessarily have to go too deep early on into criticisms of specific scenes or whatnot, but I do feel like she's still struggling a little bit to find who she's supposed to be in this franchise.
Mm-hmm.
She's really likes every guy, and she can't really sell it in a lot of ways. I know she's supposed to say that, but she's clearly not an actress, and it's like some of this stuff where she's saying the things that she has to say just don't come across as believable, that she's just sort of going through the motions. And it's sort of like, if you can't sell it to me, then tell me the truth, right? Just be like, I'm not really digging this guy. I'm going to send him home. So I would say that I'm definitely seeing a little bit of that where I wouldn't call it a lack of genuineness as much as I would say it's like she just hasn't really figured out how to be the Bachelorette and be critical is what I would say.
Yeah,
she hasn't figured out how to be like, I don't like this guy yet.
Fair. I mean, again, it's episode 2, and that was also your critique of Joey. I think with both Joey and Jenn, I heard you say the same sentence, which is, how could you have a connection with everybody? And that is part of like the fantasy.
Joey could sell it.
Yeah, Joey was just
Jenn can't sell it.
Yeah. And like, listen, she's trying to figure out what her role is, and she might genuinely like these men as people. They're definitely not all romantic interests, but I listen, I'm down with Jenn. Don't come at my girl. Like I am feeling very protective of her today.
Look, I wouldn't be that high on Jenn specifically. I just think that the casting ended up being pretty good. The guys are being guys. The drama with Aaron, the drama with Thomas, everything going on with Devin. It just, you're starting to see a different side of Sam M, right? The one she has she's mega attracted to, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like clear and obvious. I think it's a really good dynamic that's really going to shake things up and keep things kind of interesting. I actually think a lot of it is less about Jenn specifically. I definitely have some comments about some of the way she handled certain things. I think, the way she responded in the one-on-one with Marcus, I thought was interesting. I think the way she handled Thomas was actually really interesting. Some of it I like, some of it I don't like. The way she, responds to Grant. Like, I just think I have moments where I'm like, nailed it. And I have other moments where I'm like, you are so 26. And so I'm not like full on like Jenn is the best Bachelorette ever. I have no way to even begin. I mean, she's one of one in my experience. But I definitely see some hope at moments. I'm seeing some strong tendencies of things that I like. unfortunately, they're also bookended with some stuff that I really don't like.
Fair. Okay, fine. I mean, I'm sure we'll get into it, but I think it's almost like too soon to judge her as like how she's doing at her job as the Bachelorette. And to your point, the people that are bringing the entertainment are the men right now. I mean, she's kind of facilitating that in a way. But yeah, this cast of men is fantastic. I am so excited. I'm so excited. I can't wait to watch the rest of the season unfold.
Yeah, but before we get into the actual events, I just want to kind of the Hakeem Spider situation. Can I just say, if you are going on this show, you don't tell production your biggest fears. Like, why would you do that, right? At any point in time, right? I'd be like, you know what? I'm terrified of ice cream. You know what? I see ice cream and I just need to run away. So maybe you should put me in an ice cream date or something. You know, make me go and make me face my fears and make me go make homemade ice cream and eat an entire tub of it. Yeah, like
yeah. I mean that Hakeem must be very trusting to just like not take the bait, or not see it as bait.
Well, let's start with a conversation. My favorite conversation of good date, bad date.
Mm-hmm.
We should make this a segment. We got to get like a transition script. Catherine, get on that, right? We need a transition script. Good date, bad date. Some music. No? We'll work on that. Anyway, so we had 3 dates. What dates did we like? What dates did we hate? And why did we like or hate them? Let's start with the one-on-one date.
Mm-hmm.
Jumping out of a plane. With Marcus, yep. We'll talk about the date in a second here, but just like good date, bad date, and why. Jumping out of an airplane, and then having dinner in a library. Like it, hate it?
I like it.
Interesting. Okay, why?
Because you are doing something scary together, and then you have that experience to talk about. It's something that kind of bonds you. So while it doesn't involve a lot of like conversation and like interaction, like during the jumping out of the plane, like it's a very vulnerable thing to do together. So,
yeah, on the one hand, I didn't initially like it at all. My thought process was this feels out of order. This feels like a date that you do after you've already built up an emotional connection with somebody, and now you get to really, jolt that adrenaline piece, right? And it just feels like, it just felt out of order to me. Like if you did the romantic dinner and then the next day you did this, maybe that's the order. Or maybe you do this on a second or a third date type thing. But that being said, how many people are going to get 2 one-on-ones, or get a second shot? And so I do think that there's a lot of value in, because you still do have that dinner one-on-one time to connect and whatnot. I think I would call this a mediocre to good date, because you can see how somebody's going to behave, how you're going to, respond with somebody, how they're going to comfort you. And so I guess I'm on the train of like mediocre to good, but I didn't love it. I have my reservations about it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I didn't know that it was non-binary. If I could have said medium, I would go with medium.
Okay, fair. I mean, we don't have a set range or criteria here. You can go with whatever you want to
make my own rules.
Make your own rules. All right. So then we got the first group date going through the market, followed by an after party.
Love this date. Love this date as a group date. Love this date as a one-on-one date. Fantastic. Always a winner. It's a great date.
Yeah, I agree. Everybody has an opportunity to get conversation in. You get to see them, interact in different ways with each other, with people outside. One of my complaints about the date, and I don't know if I ever really say it that much, is that a lot of them don't. That they're very confined, and so you're dealing with 1 or 2 people. But when you get them in a group setting like this, and you see them, out in the wild, so to speak, where you're dealing with a lot of bystanders. You can watch and observe and learn a lot about somebody and how they interact with those other people, right?
For sure.
Not just the production crew and the camera crew. So I really like that. So yeah, I'm in, and they get the after party, straight up. Big fan of this date. And then the second group date, which
Photo
was
shoot.
photo shoot, followed by the winner of the photo shoot gets a one-on-one.
Yeah, not a good date. Not a good
Terrible
date
date.
for a lot of reasons. But yeah, there's no real opportunity to make a connection, and only one person out of some arbitrary ruling gets more time. Like, this was a sucky date, and I could understand, and we'll get to that, but I could understand why the guys, any of the remaining 8 men who didn't get time with Jenn, were frustrated because they got the shit end of the stick this week.
Yeah, so I feel like this date provides strong evidence to my theory from maybe either last season or 2 seasons ago, and that was when you have the 2 group dates, there's clearly an A and a B squad, and one group date gets the shit end of the stick, and this was definitely the group that got the shit end. But I want to point out who was on this. Thomas N., who had a very strong opening night, Sam M., who got the first impression rose, Grant, who made a strong impression, and a few other people that had also had kind of strong impressions. So the people on this date were people that we would have naturally already said, yeah, they're probably safe, all else being equal. And so it felt like they were given a date as a consolation prize, but these guys were really kind of pushed aside as,
you're
as,
safe. I don't necessarily need more time with you.
Yeah, let me explore the other guys. Let me get more time with them. So I hated it as a date, but from a strategic perspective, from from the perspective of production or from Jenn's time, I can understand how this was set up the way it was set up. And who's the guy who gets the one-on-one time? The guy that we otherwise hadn't seen, who would not be in the safe category. So, the more I thought about it, the less I hated it as a tool for the show. But as a date itself, hated it. No one-on-one time. Everything you're doing is like, at least in this, you can talk quietly, you can stand next to each other. You can have private moments, and small conversations, but there's none of that in this photo shoot date.
Yeah,
but
agreed.
You got to hold all those cute little animals.
Disgusting. No, thank you.
The little scrat with the cute little face. Oh my God. I don't know what that is, but I want one.
Nope.
That's what I want for our anniversaries coming up. I want after the Jerboa, there was the little guys. They looked like the Fordham University scrats with like extra cute faces.
Nope. Hard pass.
Well, you don't live with me anymore. You're off in Miami all the time. So, Max needs a friend. Where'd Max go? Oh, he was right here with me. Max needs a friend. See, he's running off. He's looking for friends. All right, so let's actually get into let's do group date 1 chronologically, shall we?
Sure.
So, the first group date, there was it's basically split half and half, and so they're basically going to this kind of market. I will say this market reminded me a lot of our last trip to Hawaii when we went to the Oahu food tour. Super similar to that, where they had all kind of the crazy, ethnic foods and stuff like that. And in this case, these guys are eating kangaroo testicles, whereas they were trying to feed us half-hatched baby birds, and we were like, I don't know about this. It was a similar kind of feel and concept, similar kind of idea. Also reminded me a little bit of the similar open air market in Thailand, where we got all like the fruits and everything. So I feel like we've been in this spot
to feed us crickets and things.
Oh yeah, exactly. So I feel like we've been in this location before, and I've had so much fun in these situations.
Yeah.
So I was just naturally like, I've been here. This is cool. Walking around, type thing. So yeah, I loved
that. I loved that. Yeah, Queen Victoria Market. And one thing that Jenn went into the date saying is, I want to see who is going to make special moments. That's what she was looking for. And Devin understood the assignment.
Yes. I learned something else that I really appreciate about Jenn, and that is she is also an ice cream fiend. And so we got that in common. Just saying. I mean, if there's one flaw that you have as a wife and a person, sweetheart, that is that you don't like ice cream. But it's probably for the best, because I would be 400 pounds if we both liked ice cream.
Just not a sweet person. Give me all the salty,
savories.
crunchy thing. Yeah.
Yep.
So what did you think about this move with Devin?
I actually really liked it. So there's a couple things here. He did not do anything wrong, right?
Mhm.
He took his shot. It's hard to say how much time was actually. Commentary later suggested that it wasn't that long that they were apart. It's a small little location. Like, he couldn't have gotten away from them for 30 minutes, right? I mean, it was probably 5 minutes or less. So I get it. You carve out little time for yourself. I would have personally been perfectly fine if every guy said, "Hey," if the guy, like, I would have been the guy who would be like, "Hey, just so you guys know, like, I think that we should all carve out 5 to 7 minutes that we all take one-on-one with her." And similar to what they kind of talked about at the house later on. And any guy who said, nope, not doing that, I'm like, all right, well, I don't get why you wouldn't sign on to that, but I'm still going to take my shot, right? I probably would have been very aggressive in doing what Devin did, but I also have the maturity of being almost twice his age to know that I would probably give a little bit of warning first, and let guys know that I'm taking my time, but then, hey, I recommend you all do the same, but that's that. So I love the Devin move. Shoot your shot, go for it. You're not here to make friends with the guys in the house. You're here for an assignment. So, and
Not here to make friends. You really are a Bachelor Nation member.
I mean, he knew the assignment, and he executed well on his plan.
Yeah.
I give him credit for that.
So do I. It definitely takes like some bravery on the first date when you don't know anybody, to just like put yourself out there like that and know that you're going to ruffle some feathers and kind of go with it anyway. And I admire that about any person. It's like, good for you. Like, I would be people pleasing my way right home, like, and I think that's one of the things that happens on this show a lot, not just The Bachelorette, but across the franchise, is that there's this misconception that it has to be either or. Either we are friends, or we are there's a villain, or there's an enemy. And I think that Devin is trying to walk the line between being respectful but still being assertive. And it's debatable whether or not he crosses that line of what's respectful and what's not. But like, it's not, I said it's not binary in that way either. It's not all or nothing. And I think that's where men tend to fall behind, is that they're almost too polite, or like too, trying to take care of the group. And then you lose when you're playing the situation that way. Because then you're not really looking out for yourself and not showing interest in building a connection with Jenn. You show more interest in maintaining your connection with the other contestants. Like, your priorities are out of whack. Jenn is into this. She feels like Devin went out of his way to do this. But the men, particularly Aaron, have a really hard time with this. He views it as disrespectful. And it really does in a lot of ways, like, all the men kind of fell into Devin's trap in a way as a viewer that was so satisfying, because what ended up happening, right? They go then to, Melbourne's, comedy festival or whatever, and they have to create jokes. And Devin is the sole target of all of these jokes, and they all suck. And so it's kind of like, I was watching this happen, and I was like, guys, like, you are giving Devin so much power. A different way to engage around this would be to not talk about him at all, or to, again, draw attention to yourself. But yeah, that all of the attention and focus went to Devin was just reading so insecure to all the other guys. It was like cringy to watch just how insecure all these men were, as a result of like this action that Devin took. It was embarrassing, almost cringy.
So I laugh because this is something that I talk about all the time, and I talked about literally last episode. What are the two types of personalities that lead groups of men? Either the alpha male, or if an alpha is not established for a variety of reasons, it oftentimes is the one who centers everybody in the same direction. And sometimes that same direction is at themselves because it's a unifying force, and men like unifying forces. And this is where I get into, this is where Devin and I are very similar. I go back and think about, remember, the Montreal bachelor party, where I walked into the bachelor party and I knew literally nobody except for the bachelor and all of his friends. I walked into the room, basically was Devin for a second here, aligned every single guy, set myself up, teed myself up to be the butt of every single joke. And by the end of that weekend, every single guy in that place loved me. I was the life of the party. And all it took was me having the not having the ego where I let myself be the butt of all the jokes, teed myself up for it, and I basically aligned all of the men in one direction. And once they were all aligned, I basically could manipulate them to do whatever I wanted. And whatever I said for the rest of the weekend, they all basically just
how
followed suit.
Machiavellian of you.
But this is exactly what Devin's doing. And I wouldn't necessarily expect a lot of people to pick up on this, especially females, because it's such a male thing. It's a male dynamic, and it's even so subconscious that, unless you've really analyzed male behavior, like you wouldn't even necessarily notice this. But this is exactly what he's done. He has won over half the house by being authentic and being himself. Even people like Jeremy, who are like, I hate the guy, but you know what? He was right.
He's true to himself.
He's true to himself, and he's right. And so many people in the house have said that already. And even if they can't stand him, you already see the alignment. He's winning the battle against Thomas. He's already won the battle against Aaron. And he's clearly way out in front with Jenn compared to several of the others.
Yeah.
And he is the most manipulative person so far that we have seen, but it's not a malicious manipulation.
Subtle. Yeah.
It is a subtle, he understands how to align people in the way that's going to benefit him.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe he doesn't understand it consciously. Maybe it's a subconscious thing, but like he gets it. Like he is doing exactly what he needs to do. I think it's fantastic. I loved watching it. It was what I said at the top of this episode. It was so relatable. This whole scene was so relatable. Everything with Devin to me was so relatable. I loved when everyone made him the butt of the jokes, and he sat there and he took it, no complaints, because he knew I own them all.
Mm-hmm.
They will all move how I need them to move at this point.
Yeah. And they did. They did. They fell apart.
Fell apart
they
completely.
Crumbled.
I mean, Thomas N was literally crying for the whole cocktail party, the whole rose ceremony, literally like just holding back tears the whole time. He's broken him in no time at all. Aaron, Aaron, I almost believe that this is all performative. This feels like a little Sydney, like he knows that he's not really interested in Jenn. He's just there to sort of make a name for himself. He doesn't care if he gets the evil edit. He just wants to be on camera, following his brother's
We'll get to that. I know I shared this with you off recording, but there's some relevant context with Aaron that I think is worth noting. But okay, speaking of Devin and Aaron, I did want to get your take on what happened during like the cocktail portion of that date. So after the comedy show, they go and they have a cocktail portion, and Devin and Aaron are kind of in a little bit of I won't even give Devin the respect of calling it a power struggle, because he it
was 100% a dick measuring contest. Like let's not make any bones about it. It was Aaron pulled Devin and called him out. Okay, fine. Aaron was in the wrong there. Objectively, from kind of male perspective, he was in the wrong. And so
I have a whole rant about that. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. Look, he's attacking him on a personal level, doesn't even know the guy, doesn't know his name, but he's attacking him, has no basis for any of the attacks he's making. And so look, it's a power move. Devin goes over the top and he's like, hey, you know what? I can play this game. And he played it better. Right. And then, of course, Aaron tries to come back over the top, let's go through the details. Basically, Aaron gets some one-on-one time in the cocktail party. Devin rolls in his ice cream cart, right? Aaron tries really hard to not have to leave. But Devin's just outplaying him. The tone.
He said, I didn't ask you.
Yeah. But I mean, just the tone and everything, the way he delivers it was fantastic. First round goes to Devin. Aaron comes back.
Like there was like an element that was like, damn, like,
yep.
I'm not like really, I wasn't attracted to Devin before this episode, but there was an element of like, I respect your assertiveness. I respect your confidence, your swagger here. Like, get it, Devin. Like, I get it.
Yep. Oh yeah. So Aaron goes back, tries to basically pull the same move, but of course, Devin gets the better of him there too. Devin does walk out. But again, in the exchange, when you look at the body language and the tone and the verbiage used, Devin he looked like the bigger man. Again, 2-0 to Devin.
Yeah, now, because he made it seem like it was his choice to leave.
Yes.
And that he was doing Jenn the courtesy of leaving, that it wasn't for Aaron.
So then Devin comes back, right? Now here's the problem. Devin should have not, the third one was too much. The problem was
that was
Aaron,
my question.
Yeah, no, the third one was too much. But the good news is that Aaron was so bad in his behavior there that I can't even give him the point. So it just feels like 2-2-0-1. It felt like 2 points go to Devin and a draw on the third.
Yeah.
But I want to point out here, Aaron didn't get a kiss, right?
Mm-hmm.
In their interactions, Jenn definitely did not seem like she was all that into Aaron. And even after we give him the draw for a bad third attempt in, he still gets a kiss. So, and this comes back to one of my criticisms of Jenn, that she says she'll say things, but then her actions belie those statements. She's like, I really didn't like X, but let me make out with the guy who just did X. It's like,
What did she say she didn't like?
She actually called out him saying, on the third attempt back, she did call them out and be like, hey, is this necessary? You guys going to fight in front of me? Blah, 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 blah. Okay, good. Aaron, I'll leave. Okay, fine. Oh, hey, Devin, bring that mouth over here and make out with me, right? So, like, clearly her actions and her words are not always lining up. There's also been plenty of times she's like, oh my God, he's so hot, so attractive. I'm really, really into him. And you can just tell, like, but no kiss happens and it just doesn't feel like this chemistry.
Right.
So I feel like there's a lot of this, like, words and actions not
sure.
aligned.
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting because I'm looking through my notes and I wrote this is the order. So maybe I'm inside of Jenn's head a little bit. I wrote, Devin has confidence, swagger, assertiveness. Then I wrote, Jenn says, I feel like I'm in a tug of war. And then Jenn and Devin kiss. And so maybe there is something like, yeah, she might not like it, but it might also be feel good in some way. Still exciting. So
she's still a 26-year-old young woman.
Yeah, and she says she has a history of toxic relationships or picking the wrong guy. So there probably is something about that dynamic that might feel good to be fought over a little bit. So I do want to get to what Aaron was saying to Devin, as you pointed out, called him by the wrong name. So he says, how serious are you about this? I don't want you wasting Jenn's time. Are you ready? Jenn doesn't want to be with a boy. I don't feel like you're ready to be ready for someone like Jenn. I doubt your intentions. You're wasting her time. He said he doesn't like the childish behavior of Devin, but doesn't want to get pulled into drama. Talk about words and actions. So there's all this stuff, and because we were watching it together-ish, this sent me. I was floored at this. And this is something that, again, comes up in some way, shape, or form every season, particularly around the women. And I cannot take this fucking, excuse me, patriarchal bullshit of like, oh, you need to protect Jenn. Like, Jenn's a woman. Like, she can make her own choices. Who the fuck are you to try to come in and swoop in like what's best for Jenn? Excuse me. You don't know her at all. And this is like, let's put some trust and faith in Jenn that she knows how to make this decision for herself. And if she makes the wrong choice, guess what? She's a big girl. She'll figure it out. Like, I cannot fucking take this. This really bothered me, rubbed me the wrong way. And so much of it was projection. So much of it was Aaron's own, like, I doubt he has impure intentions. He's in it for the drama. He is acting incredibly childish and immature and insecure. And he is giving all the signs that he's not taking this seriously and that he's not ready for a relationship. And Devin is just the easy target as someone who asserts confidence and security. And it is causing Aaron to kind of like shrivel and shrink into himself and act out in this way and just project all of his insecurity onto him.
Yeah, I agree with some of what you said. So what I would say is Devin has done a very good job of distracting men and getting them to focus on him rather than focus on Jenn. And that, and some have done a better job of not getting dragged into that. Obviously, Thomas N and Aaron are full on focused on Devin. Meanwhile, you've got people like Grant and Sam M who see what's going on and they're just like, "Yep, you guys do your thing. I'm just going to keep focusing on Jenn." So it's pretty clear that he's doing a good job of distracting men, and getting more time, relative time with Jenn. And that's something important to remember something here. You don't get a lot of time, but time is not measured in absolute. It's measured in relative terms on a show like this. No one's getting a lot of time. So you just need more time than everybody else. It's that old adage, you don't have to outrun the dragon, you just have to outrun the halfling, because the halfling runs slower and he's going to get eaten by the dragon, right? That's sort of what the adage is here, right? Like you just have to get more time than everybody else. And if you're distracting people away from using their time effectively, then you are winning the game, right?
Right. And using their time effectively, either you pull a Thomas and you don't use your time, or you pull what I imagine Aaron's going to do is that you use your time to talk about Devin.
The classic death nail. And I don't know if has it ever worked in this show? I don't think so. But people still pull it. I don't know. But going back to the actual conversation between Devin and Aaron, I agree with the general sentiment, right? I disagree in that I do believe that women need to be protected by men, but they need to be protected physically. They don't need to be protected from making bad decisions with respect to who they decide to date. Give them a warning if you are close to them and feel it's necessary. But I agree. And that's what Jenn effectively said to Thomas later in the episode of okay, so you're going to carve up my time for me? Like, how is that? That's taking away my independence. And she is fundamentally right? Yeah. Which is a similar sentiment to what you were just expressing, right? Now, everything that Aaron was doing was cringe. Everything he was doing suggested to me he is not actually here for the right reasons. He's here because his brother was on the show. His brother got some notoriety, and so he said, "Hey, let me follow suit and get my 15 minutes."
Listen, Noah, his brother, twin brother, was I wouldn't say similarly cringe, but problematic in his own way. And he had a beef with another contestant named Bennett. And Bennett was definitely arrogant, I'd say, is a good way to describe him, and kind of a know-it-all. And Bennett kept accusing Noah of not having emotional intelligence, and then presented Noah with a book on emotional intelligence. And so it felt a little too convenient that Aaron would sort of pull the same move here and present Devin with a book on, personal growth. So that for me
it was all production is what you're saying.
It all felt so performative and fake. And you had said that maybe he's just going for this edit. And there was a part of me that was I don't want to give him that much credit. I in my mind, he's just insecure and lacks self-awareness. And then when he presented the book, I was like, oh God, that's what this is. You're trying to play the producer, role here, not producer role, but play into the producer's hand to buy you more time. And so I'm extra out, I'm not interested at all.
Yeah. I don't even remember what my initial thoughts were on Aaron last week. I'd have to go back and look at my notes, but
he had no presence at all.
Is that, yeah, I don't really remember specifically. I didn't look at my notes because it's, as you all know, we're filming directly after. It's, already 11 o'clock at night. So, yeah. So I agree with you. I'm out. He's clearly going to be there for production purposes for a little bit. You just can tell when Jenn interacts with him, she's not into it at all.
Yeah.
Does not care. He's getting roses by production. He'll stick around as long as production, wants him around. But he's as good as toast as far as the competition is concerned. The one that I think is more interesting is Thomas N. Because Thomas N and her, they had the shared cultural background, the similar family, dynamics, and they had a really good first week. And he really blew himself up tonight. So why don't we move on to the one-on-one date with Marcus? Marcus, big fan, both of us, after night one. What are your thoughts? How'd he do?
Amazing. I love Marcus. Interesting.
But I can't be interested. I can't find your response interesting.
Well, the way that you're saying it makes me think that your opinion of him has changed as a result of the one-on-one. I was really moved by his story and what he shared. Yeah.
So this is what I will say. I like Marcus a lot. He was my front runner week one. I was disappointed in the date because it just didn't feel like they had a spark. The whole time I was just waiting. I'm like, I want there to be chemistry between these two. I really like Jenn. I really like Marcus. I think Marcus he's got so many qualities that should make him like this just amazing person. And I want there to be a spark like she has with Sam M. And I just wasn't feeling it. And I was getting so frustrated as the seconds ticked by. And we just never got there. And it makes me worried because I do like Marcus. And I really want him to go far. And I didn't see the spark,
I see what you're saying too. And I think like I'm viewing the date through my bias of really liking Marcus. So I'm like almost seeing what I want to see. But yeah, objectively speaking, I think I had said to you while we were watching, like, I feel like he's not doing enough to comfort her. And similarly, like when he shared his experience after his injury in Afghanistan, it felt like there was a mix of like she didn't really know how to receive it. Like there was a little bit of awkwardness there. Yeah, I see what you're saying, and that there wasn't a spark. I mean, yeah, nothing compares to the chemistry that she has with Sam M. Like that is fire, like fiery. And and with Marcus, it didn't read that way. She did say when she was kind of narrating the date after that, it felt like he was attuned to her throughout the date and like knew not to overdo it, didn't underdo it. And so maybe those are things that just like don't translate on TV or like parts of their experience together that we just like didn't get to see. But yeah, ultimately I'm with you in that, like it was lacking passion.
The part that I found most interesting was Jenn's response. And I would love to get your opinion on this. To me, as he's telling this story, this extremely touching story that is just very emotional, and he told it in such a way that it felt very visceral. I don't know how you came across to you, but for me, like I felt the weight of what he was saying, and it just didn't feel like Jenn could get there emotionally. Like it just felt like she didn't know how she was supposed to respond to this. She sort of salvaged it at the end, but it just felt like she was like, almost like, what am I supposed to be doing here? What's the right thing to say? And so my question is that inexperience? Is that immaturity? Am I completely wrong? And she handled it perfectly well. Was I reading too much into it? Was it a bad edit? You tell me your thoughts.
Yeah. Well, first, when I was listening to the story, I was emotional. Like it was an emotional story. And I'm in a group chat with some therapist colleagues, and similarly, we were all like, "Oh my gosh, like this was really, really touching. This is like kind of an intense moment." So we, the 4 or 5 of us who were in this chat, were also feeling it. There was a part of me that really thought Jenn was actually going to get up and excuse herself. And we've seen this happen in previous seasons before, where someone will like kind of drop a big, like heavy, intense thing, and the lead will like literally lead and say like, I need a minute. And then we'll come back. And I thought due to the way that Jenn was not reacting, that she was going to do that. And she didn't. And so I don't know if that's clear in terms of like what I'm trying to say about Jenn's reaction or lack thereof. But my sense was she didn't know how to respond. Like, I don't think it was a lack of empathy. I think it's like, what do you say? Like, what is enough to say? What is the right thing to say? How do you in any way express your appreciation for what he sacrificed, for our country, what he sacrificed to be here, and how, like, and I'm sure in her mind, she's thinking, oh my gosh, like I cannot relate to this, like at all. And so it's so hard to cultivate empathy. And I'm not saying she's not empathic, but like to even try to imagine what this man must have felt like is so far beyond most people's ability. And so I think my guess is that she was just trying to figure out, like, again, what's enough to say in response to what this man just shared with me about what he's experienced and what he's been through.
Yeah, that's kind of the thought I had on the whole thing. Is this just, she could never possibly relate to something like that. And she's young enough where she probably has not been in a situation where she's had a lot of experience having those types of conversations, where she can draw on like, okay, what did I do or not do last time? What did people tell me was helpful? And so it just was a matter of like, wow, this is deep and heavy, and I'm don't actually have an experience in how to navigate something this deep and heavy. Which, which fair. Most of us don't, right?
And maybe that's, again, maybe this is such an unfair read. Again, she was a PA student. I'm sure they get some training in bedside like delivering, bedside manner, like delivering difficult news. Like, again, she's clearly an intuitive, engaging person. So like she has interpersonal skills, but it just seemed like, again, she was a little bit out of her depth there. But like, really, what do you say? Like, what would you have liked to see her respond? Or how, rather, not even with, it doesn't have to be words.
Well, I mean, first off, I want to point out that I did not serve and did not have grenades launched at me, did not get ever shot at. So it's certainly not a relatable scenario for me either, right? And so I don't profess in any way, shape, or form to know how she should have responded. Nor am I trained like you are to have some basic sense of what you should be doing. I think this is probably a good moment, and it's sort of a cheat because it's always the right thing to do with a man, is to like put her hand on his shoulder or something like that. Have a physical connection to him, right? Bring him back and a little bit to the present a little bit. And I don't even necessarily think she has to like say anything. It's more of just having, like a presence with it. A lot of ways, again, we cite this all the time because it was so well executed. Teresa and Gary, in like that simple gesture of a woman putting her hand in support on a man's shoulder.
Reassurance.
Reassurance and support. It is such a powerful thing when it's done in such a genuine manner. And when the body language conveys, like it's not just a hand on the shoulder, but the whole body language conveys that support and reassurance. That's all you really have to do. Words are good too if you can say the right ones. I don't profess to know what the right words would have been there.
Yeah,
but I think a hand on the shoulder would have done it for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I was also, hoping for some like, yeah, physical, like coming together, like some physical joining, like again, whether, yeah, hand on the shoulder, hand on the cheek, hand on the knee, like just something. Um, yeah, I was feeling so drawn to him in that moment. And I feel like she didn't physically pull away, but it felt like she did.
Like an emotional pull away as she was struggling with the situation. Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
I don't like the hand on the cheek. I feel like the hand on the cheek is in that situation. I wouldn't like the hand on the cheek. I think the
mm-hmm.
hand on the leg and the knee is not enough. I think the hand on the cheek is like too weird. The hand on the shoulder, hand on the back, that's
Mm-hmm.
upper back. Yeah, that's where I'd be.
Okay. So Marcus does get the one-on-one rose.
Yep. He did enough. I mean, I think, well, let's put it this way. If somebody sits there and tells you they did 6 deployments overseas and he had a grenade thrown at him, give the man a damn fucking rose, please. Like,
Yeah.
I say this all the time. In the United States, for those who are Canadians or the UK watchers, in the United States, if you serve in the military, you are basically guaranteed, it doesn't matter what your credit score is, you are basically guaranteed a home loan through HUD's VA program. And my statement on that has always been, if you go and you serve in the military, give this guy a damn house. As far as I'm concerned, give him a house. And you know what? I feel the same way. 6 deployments, give him a rose. He earned it. I don't care. I don't care if it's the only rose he gets. Give him the rose. He deserves it just for that alone. And let's have him see another day, right? All right. Do you want to move on to the second group date?
Yes.
All right. The dud of the group dates. Honestly, there really wasn't much here. We saw some cute furry little animals, a disgusting looking spider, and a really big snake. Can I just point out that snake's head was like, it was like weird how it was discolored, his face. Yeah, and the rest of him was a different color. But basically, it's a photo shoot with a bunch of animals out in the Australian outback. Very sort of classic, almost stereotypical, Australian type of situation. It's not a date. It's kind of dumb. And it's not clear. Dylan, right? That's his name. What was his name? The guy who won?
Dylan. Yeah.
Dylan. Yeah, Dylan. Yeah. Who we prior to this had never seen before, ever. Like, I have no recollection of this guy at all. So I had no idea what to expect from this one-on-one date. But he basically wins the one-on-one date. Anything that you thought was particularly interesting or noteworthy about the photo shoot, other than Hakeem freaking out over the spider?
Yeah, I wrote Sam M, tension and chemistry. That's what she said, and that was clear. And then Hakeem, I wrote comic relief. Like
so fun. He's
great. He's great. We need a Hakeem here, and he's an unproblematic bro. Like I'm here for it. I'm so happy he's here and he's sticking around. But no, other than that, no.
There was nothing noteworthy. There was nothing we learned, about anybody's dating style, anybody's personality whatsoever. Like, there was nothing to learn. It was quite literally a waste of 10 or 15 minutes of time. Yep. Purely there for comic relief, and that was it. So Dylan gets the one-on-one date, which is, just a dinner. And quite frankly, we didn't get much here. Like, when you actually look back at what actually happened, we get a short clip of him talking about his parents' relationship, which was lovely story, tells you a lot about the type of family he comes from, and comes from parents that are still married, and his father's a big romantic. And then it was basically a cutaway, and we would see like that they clearly were having an engaging conversation. This is a guy who doesn't seem to shine in group settings, but it looks like in a one-on-one setting, he actually probably does much better. But there was so much drama happening back at the house between Devin and Aaron that they were cutting away to give us that drama. And so, I mean, was there anything that we could really glean other than the fact that Dylan comes from a family of parents who love each other?
I enjoyed getting to know Dylan a little bit more. He's also a med student, just took the MCAT. So they have like that similar interest
path, yeah.
in medicine. And one thing that he shared was that he was feeling insecure amongst the group, and Jenn related to that. And she said she sees herself in Dylan. And so it feels like there's some commonality here. She does tell him, and we hear this a number of times throughout the episode, that she never had a partner stand up for her. And that might have been the third time we heard that this episode. And so someone fighting for her and this ferocious love that she wants is really meaningful to her. And she says again that she has had toxic relationships in the past. So this is very clearly a big part of Jenn's story, her narrative. Her baggage that she's coming in with is like really trying to shed this experience of, again, being with the wrong men and picking someone a bit sturdier and who prioritizes her and is a partner to her.
Which also lends further evidence as to why Devin is doing so well. Because he's fighting for every step of the way, putting her first everywhere, and not caring if he ruffles feathers to put her first.
Yeah, for sure.
I had no opinion of Dylan prior to this one-on-one. We didn't get enough to really learn much from him, but the little we did see, I would like to see more. Seems like nice guy, seems like a good head on his shoulders. When you look statistically at the chances that you're going to have a successful marriage, it is highly, highly correlated. The number one, factor, a positively correlated factor, is, the success of your parents' marriage, right? And that's why divorce is so detrimental. It's actually a generational kind of trauma, if you will, or a generational problem that kind of begets itself. So here's a guy who seems like a real nice guy, seems like he's got a good head on his shoulders. He is enormous, by the way.
He's really tall.
A humongous human being.
Yeah,
like huge.
Really tall.
And he clearly comes from a family that has demonstrated, successful marriages. I would like to see a lot more from him. Kind of a dark horse at this point. Didn't see him coming, but I'm happy he got the one-on-one, and I'm looking forward to seeing more. Which buries the lead a little bit. Clearly, he got a rose. He's sticking around.
Yeah, he got a rose from that one-on-one portion. And then to your point, in the background, we see the remaining 8 men from this group date come home, all grumbly, frustrated that they didn't get extra time. And so they believe that they enter into an agreement with the rest of the house that they will be prioritized for getting time with Jenn at the rose ceremony the next day.
That is not the agreement that we saw. Now, granted, it is edited, but they said we did not get time. First off, I think it is one of those things where I actually respect it. They came in and said, hey, guys, you guys had your time. We didn't get any time. We would appreciate it if you guys would not get in our way from having our time. And for the most part, the guys seemed like, respectful thing, no big deal. They did not say, at least in the edit we saw, we get first crack. They said, please don't get in our way and please respect our time. And what did Devin say? He said, I am not going to the back of the line, but I absolutely will respect your time.
Yes.
That is what he said. And I want to point out, again, could be edited, but if that is what he said, he was true to his word. And everybody who called him a liar and said that, whatever, they are wrong. Now, again, could have been edited, but he's right. He went in, he did his time, and, we don't know what would have happened. Would he have gone back or whatever? My belief is, on the little I've seen of him, is that had nobody messed with him, he would have respected people's time. If somebody like Aaron came in and fucked with him again, then he would have gone and fucked with them back. But if people respected him, he would have gone, he would have taken his time, and he probably would have stepped back. That seems like his personality. And, but people read into it that agreements that were not struck. Yeah. And even if they were struck, I respect the guys for wanting to set an arrangement like that. I have no problem with that. But again, Devin heard the correct thing. He says, respect my time. Make sure that, if I'm coming in for time, understand I haven't gotten time. So but at the same time, at no point in time did they specify a pecking order. And Devin even called him back on that. He even said, we didn't say who's going first in what order. We got all freaking night. There's 8 of you. So that's my take on it. Devin was clearly in the right here.
Yeah. And so he does what Devin does, which is he takes her first.
YOLO.
Which really pisses people off.
Some people.
Some people. And I liked the parallel of him saying to Jenn, I, in a previous relationship, had to hide a part of myself to try to be a fit for someone. And I just want to basically be myself. And Jenn saying, I feel like you being yourself gives me room to be myself. And so we're seeing him say, essentially, I'm going to be unapologetically me. Like I'm not going to try to sugarcoat who I am. Like this is me. And then that is the threat, right? Like to the men. And that's the thing that garners him respect from, like, we hear Grant say it. We hear, Jahan say it. Jeremy say it.
Like, I don't like the guy, but you know what? You got to respect the fact that he is who
respect
he is,
someone who stays true to himself.
Yep. And even turned on his prior ally, Thomas N, and was like, yeah, Thomas N was wrong there. He screwed the night up for all of us, basically. Yep.
Yeah. And so Thomas N, as you were, mentioning,
blunder
very
of the
unhappy.
show. Yeah.
Very unhappy.
This was not just a blunder of the episode. It would not shock me if it is one of the biggest blunders of the entire show. Right? So basically, he who
this
was it?
actually
Sam
shocked
M?
me.
Well, it was shocking on a couple levels because somebody was it maybe Spencer or somebody was going to go and interrupt one of the 8, right? It was going to go and interrupt Devin, and Sam M says, "Hold on, let Thomas go first." And they're all part of the 8, and so they've all got this kind of bro pact, and so it's unclear why that is, but it's very clear that this was kind of set up in some way, shape, or form. Thomas N goes up, and instead of pulling Jenn, he pulls Devin. Again, wasted time. Devin's already got his time. And what does Thomas do? He spends all of his time, literally, basically almost all of his time, berating Devin in earshot of Jenn. We see Jenn like eavesdropping. and again, we don't know exactly because the edit, but the edit really seems to suggest that Devin, she's agreeing with Devin here, not agreeing with Thomas. And I mean, just from the conversation myself, I think, again, Devin keeps winning these exchanges. He continually wins them. Clearly won them against Thomas again here. And then, regardless of the edit, once Thomas finally gets his time, sit down with Jenn basically berates him and basically tells him, Devin's right. You left me sitting here for 10 minutes, she says. Who knows how long it really was. You left me sitting here for 10 minutes. How is that respectful to me? Like, you just wasted your time. And then, was it Sam M after that? Comes in and his time's over. He wasted his entire time. Again, Devin did what? He literally blew Thomas up. Blew him up. Thomas got no time with Jenn except for a few seconds, and those few seconds were completely negative.
You gotta respect it. Like,
so well done.
He is reminding me of Marie.
It looks like he took the high road every step of the way. Yep.
He's reminding me a lot of the way that Maria navigated things in Joey's season, in that Maria was kind of like, yes, the target, but mostly because she was just like so confident and self-assured. And it unraveled, the Sydneys and the whatever that Jess's and all of that stuff. Yeah. I mean, Jenn said, you guys are taking my independence from me. Were those 10 minutes really worth it? And just wild. My question for you, a little, as you would call it, a tinfoil hat moment, but we hear Thomas say to Jenn, again, we had this plan essentially for how your time was going to be spent, and Austin was supposed to go first. But why then did Sam M send Thomas in? Did he know that Thomas was going to essentially implode and he's playing chess here?
My guess is that they were down there all stewing, and I think it was pretty. Yeah, I think it was pretty clear. Like, no, somebody's got to go confront Devin, and it was pretty clear. Like Thomas was ready and willing to. That would be my guess. Yeah, that would be my guess.
Not that they were like, oh you go do that. You go and have fun with that. Like not setting a trap for him either.
I don't think we got enough information. I mean, one thing I'll say is I don't know how strategic some of these individuals are. There's a lot of bros in that house, right? You know, I'm not. I don't necessarily know that they all have the foresight to that level. You know, social dynamics are just so different. When you think about you said that this kind of reminds you of the Maria situation. I don't go down that road. Like I see how you get there, but it's just such a different dynamic because female social interactions are so much more complex. Like like we're talking like exponentially more complex than male social interactions. You know, it's and so you know, women will think about all that. They spend all their time. There's a really like fascinating study where, or really it's like a survey where they stuck 100 women and 100 men in a room, for like basically 4 hours. Told them, oh, you're going to be in here for like 5 minutes, and stuck them in there for 4 hours. And then they did a survey about what everybody thought about. And overwhelmingly, women thought about prior conversations that they had with other people and arguments they had and how they could have changed the argument, argue differently, or they thought about all of these complex social interactions they had, you know, and like this person likes this person, doesn't like this person, all this other stuff. And men thought about sports. Right? Overwhelmingly. And that's what I always come back to is like, men just aren't, when it comes to social dynamic, we're so simple and basic, right? And it really just comes down to a couple of factors where women's social interactions are so complex because you guys are processing more information. You care about way more factors. But so all that to be said, I don't think that I think the tinfoil hat is a fun idea, but I really just don't think these guys were thinking that far ahead in that regard.
Fair. Okay.
You know?
Other things just worth noting before we get to the rose ceremony. Another steamy makeout with Sam M. Clearly, they've got chemistry.
Oh my God. Like she is so into him. And it's like, but there's no depth, right? Like there's no
We don't know. We haven't seen it. I don't really know beyond the physical chemistry how much like compatibility they have. And I guess we'll see what happens. There are definitely some questionable things about the way that he engaged. We saw a little bit more of his character this episode, but I don't know that I, along with many other viewers, are like as trusting of Sam M. And I think we saw a little bit of that tonight. So I'm definitely curious to see what happens from here, like how much he plays into the drama. The other thing is from a therapist perspective, we have a concept called countertransference, where like a client will maybe remind us of something or someone, or maybe elicit some sort of feelings in us. I can't unsee the physical connection between Sean M. Is that his name? Sean?
Sam.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. There it is. Sam M. and Sean Booth. Sean Booth was the winner of Caitlin Bristow's season. And there's just so much similarity, again, in terms of the way that they look, the energy that they give. And so that definitely has me, maybe my bias is because of that. But anyway.
What's wrong with Sean Booth? Give me some context.
He was definitely like very ego driven, very took this as a competition. I mean, he won. But there was a lack of like trustworthiness in him. Like he was untrusting, and he also seemed, to be like it was about the game in a way, but that's like maybe again, an unfair read. He and Caitlin were in a relationship for years, after the show, and they did break up and never got married, but they were together for a number of years.
Okay. Yeah. I think that you are dead on accurate. There was definitely some stuff in this episode that caused me to shift my opinion. I'm not ready to go down the road of saying that he's not a good guy or anything like that, but I didn't like the way he engaged on several scenarios that popped up, specifically around kind of the Thomas Devin situation. So we'll see how it plays out. But it's definitely a situation where I'm watching him with one eye at this moment.
Yeah. I mean, listen, at this point, Devin is his biggest competition. So of course, that's why again, tinfoil hat, like, that's why I think, like, is he trying to do something on the other side to try to undermine Devin in some way? I don't know. Like, it feels like he's playing the long game. That's like kind of what it's reading to me in a way. I just don't really know what that's going to look like yet.
Yep. All right. Anybody else we want to talk about before we get into the rose ceremony?
No, not particularly. I mean, we saw some nice moments with Jonathan, with Spencer. But other than that, I think, again, this episode centered around Devin. So there's not much.
More of them do as well.
Yeah. Yes. He's very skilled. So I imagine we'll see that in the episode to come.
Yep. Okay, so I got one comment about this rose ceremony, and that is shocking. I didn't understand the roses at all. They were going to people, and I didn't even know they were on the show. I mean, we were 8 roses in, and I was like, I don't recognize anybody. I don't get any of these roses at all. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely the first 4 roses, or Austin, Hakeem, Spencer, and I was like, and Jeremy. I was like, oh, that's an interesting way to start. But it wasn't until we got to Sam M, which was 1, 2, 3, 8 roses in, that I was like, oh, okay, I'm familiar. Because who the last ones were: Sam M, Devin, Sam N, Aaron, Thomas N. Like, those were people that were at the forefront of the episode. The other guys were mostly in the background, but including Grant, Dylan, and Marcus, who had gotten date roses prior to the rose ceremony. 15 roses were given out, and 3 men went home.
Yeah. So really, it kind of feels like the roses. 2 of the people that got date roses were people that we're already very familiar with, that we would expect to make it through this round. And then they just backloaded all the people we knew to the end of the round.
Yeah.
Only 3 guys went home. So what I thought was actually the most interesting was that how many, it's a have and have not season, it feels like, where we're either getting a ton of screen time or 0 screen time. And so there were just a bunch of people that we have just never seen before, and I don't even know they're on the show. So we end up losing Brian, who is the guy who was bulldogging Jeremy in the car on episode 1. We end up losing Jahan, who I literally just learned this episode because he had his first face to camera. And then some random other guy who I've never seen before and don't know who it is. I got to look it up. Did you get his name by chance?
No, I didn't. All of my devices were being used, so I didn't. Yeah. It
was just and even as you went through the list, half the people who got rose, Austin, never seen Austin.
Mullet guy.
Except for when we were told that he was supposed to be going first. That's my only frame of reference for Austin, as well as a bunch more. So it was it was an interesting rose ceremony from that regard. But everybody that we expected to go through, except for maybe Brian, because he's the only one who's gotten any meaningful screen time.
Yeah.
So, but again, he was an asshole on episode 1. Production kept him for one more episode, but he made no impression whatsoever. We saw no other time, meaningful time with him and Jenn. So, you could stick around for one episode on that strategy. It'll work in a pinch, but I wouldn't do it in front of Jenn, is what I would say.
No, it's definitely, you're not playing the long game there.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, so Rose and Thorn?
Yeah, let's do Rose and Thorn. I'm happy you asked about my rose this week.
Love it. My Thorn this week.
I hated to see that. Where do you want to start, Rose or Thorn?
Let's see. I think I have 2 roses to give out.
Okay, yeah.
one we already touched on at the top of the episode, which is Jen's wardrobe, her styling.
Yeah.
I loved it. I loved everything she wore. I want everything she wore. I loved it. I loved her style. The other thing is for the cast of these men, thank you. Thank you for the entertainment. We had a nice bro line at one point that I think was said by Devin. Just let me tick, bro. That was the best broiest exchange. It was just chef's kiss, pure entertainment. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it.
I laughed because I had a whole bunch of things. I'm like, I could go with all of the, and you picked all three of the things that I would have picked. For exactly, I love Jen's wardrobe. Same thing, like exactly the type of clothing that I would pick, for you. The casting really entertaining. And yeah, the just let me tick, bro, was maybe one of my favorite parts of the episode. So good. So since you took like my top three, I'm just going to give it up to Devin. I mean, the way he converted me, we went from hell no to I am a true believer. I am on the Devin train. Right. And so
I'm sorry. I know you don't like making this comparison, but we had the exact same switch with Maria. We were not a fan episode 1 and episode 2. We were like, we really like this girl.
Yeah.
So
that's fair.
just,
Yep. That's fair.
What about
Apparently
your thorn?
We like assertive people.
Well, I think so.
Mm-hmm.
What about your thorn?
I mean, the obvious one would be doing something with Thomas, but that's like too boring and easy. I don't know. This was an episode where I genuinely enjoyed this episode on a level I have not ever enjoyed a show in this franchise before. So I don't really have that many complaints. I mean, the kangaroo testicles, not my favorite. I do. Was it Grant who actually swallowed it down? Meanwhile, like Spencer, whoever spit it out. I think I'm going to go with the kangaroo testicles. That was if you're going to put testicles in somebody's mouth, you should tell them beforehand. That feels a little abusive. Not going to lie, just a little inappropriate. Tell me before that happens, please. And I implore you, as my wife, please tell me if you're going to put some kind of
balls in your mouth.
My mouth. Yeah. Yeah. I feel like I don't ask for that much as a husband, but I'm asking in front of all of America and Canada. Please tell me if you're going to put balls in my mouth.
That's fair. I think I can do that.
Yeah. I appreciate that. What about yours?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I've already talked about the things that were like unfavorable, like Aaron giving the book. It was just such an eye-rolling moment. Not necessarily for the moment itself, but because of the context, the history. It really, really rubbed me the wrong way. I did not like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair. All right. Shall we get out of here?
Well,
well,
I'm going to try to do this in the way that they do it on the show. So I have some really bad news. And that's that next week we're not going to be here.
That's true.
And that's because we're going to be in Mexico. Is that how they do it on the show?
That felt your acting is just as good as Jen's acting.
So next week, we will be back next week. We will be on vacation, but we are dedicated to our audience and to this show. We will be watching this episode from Mexico, recording from Mexico. So you'll see us from there for the next 2 weeks, but we'll be back with episode 3 of Jen's season of The Bachelorette. Make sure you are following us on Instagram at Reactivity TV. You can also follow along with me on Instagram at Amy Albero LCSW. You can check out our other podcast, Wishing You Well, on Instagram at Wishing You Well Pod. You can also find Wishing You Well on our YouTube channel, Wishing You Well by Revive Center for Wellness. We also want to repeat again, appreciate any efforts toward liking, subscribing, sharing this episode with a friend. It goes a long way. We really, really appreciate it. And we still have that goal of getting to 1,000 subscribers. So please help us out if you can. But we will be back next week with much more, and we'll see you then. Bye.
Adios, mi amigas, amigos.
Oh boy, you need some Duolingo before next week.
¿Dónde está?
Bye.
Adios.